Great episode, guys.
Really, the Friends background again? You're not gonna mix it up?
Alright, I'll find something else, sure, if it's
I like
so
how
important.
Rob was the only one who had Nitro out of all of us, and he's like, oh yeah, it's gonna run out soon, so eventually he's just gonna have a boring, blurry-ass background like me.
I'll find
your background's interesting, Jacob. It's like everything's too profane to be on TV. In the back. Behind you.
I'm gonna find something.
Well, I don't know. There is a Jordan Peterson book on my bed, so maybe YouTube would want to censor that.
Yeah, canceled.
Thank God.
Absolutely canceled.
He's friends with that damned Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Didn't Russia give him brain damage?
Did they?
Oh.
Did Russia do that?
Didn't he go to Russia for some fucking
I don't know.
thing and end up with brain damage recently?
It would be really funny if Russia was like the greatest threat to our society.
All I know is I found his what is it called? 12 rules for life. I found 12 rules for life at a used bookstore, and I flipped through it and I saw something funny in it, so I was like, okay, well, I'll give this a try.
Like Jay Peterson?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna give you his brief rundown.
His top critic quote on the back is Chris Evans saying that everyone needs to read 12 Rules of Life.
It's crazy. It's like, I'm Captain America permanently also.
Yeah.
In real life.
He quotes him
Why did
as
he say that?
quotes himself as Captain America. Captain America recommends
one and only
Jordan Peterson's book.
I give Marvel permission to CGI me in movies forever now.
In
He bought one of the
perpetuity.
shields.
Yeah.
He's like,
why would he be? Why not just steal them? What is he gonna? What are they gonna do? Thor has like a hammer from each movie, from just like leaving set with them and being like, what are they gonna do? I'm Thor.
Like, no one can get it out of the studio if it isn't Thor. That's stuck there on the ground.
They the props department really has to, like, he's one of the few actors they have to work with.
He's part of the props department too.
Yeah, he gets a credit.
What's that actor's name? Chris
Hemsworth, yeah.
What's with all these Chris's doing Marvel movies?
Chris Evans, Chris Pratt,
Chris Downey Jr.,
Chris Downey Jr., Chris Johansson,
Chris Rudd. Directed by
Tucker, Chris.
The new Spider-Man or Doctor Strange by Chris Raimi. It's fucking so weird.
Doctor Strange in the Chris-verse of madness.
Chris Strange.
Yeah, Dr. Chris.
Dr. Chris. Everybody hates Chris. Chris Rock slapped by Will's Chris.
Chris Smith smacked Chris Rock at the Oscars.
Christening a new movie set with Thor's hammer. Chris's hammer.
So welcome to the Buttery Chris cast. I'm one of your hosts, Jacob Boyer. I'm one of your hosts, Chris. Seated on my lap is another one of my my co-hosts, Chris. Chris, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm good. I'm Chris Demansky. How are you? I know you said you're fine. And there's another guy on my lap. What's your name there?
It's Chris. Hi, what's up? Chris Morrissey here.
No, if you're gonna keep up with it or not.
Constantly excited to be.
This is the Chris episode of the podcast.
Yeah, welcome to the Chris cast. Basically, just talking Chris as always.
Remember to keep the Chris in podcast.
Yeah, and joining us once again, quickly becoming one of our go-to guests, Chris. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
It's Chris Hammer popping up from his little rabbit hole.
Ooh, that's a deep cut name.
I
know that, but I don't think anyone else besides your
Chris Hammer
circle of
friends.
friends.
Chris Hammer.
It's close enough to the name. Christ Hammer.
Oh,
familiar to me.
The Redeemer.
It's his other name. He's
one
Chris
of many.
now.
One of many.
So Chris,
we'd all be happier as Chris, you know, if there were no more Jakes or Robs or Matts
I don't
in
like
the world.
Jakes or Robs. I mean, I like Jacob Boyer, but I mean Chris Boyer, that's pretty good.
Emmy winner Chris Boyer.
Emmy winner Chris Boyer is my mortal enemy.
Whoever he is, he's just Jacob with a dark goatee.
As if this isn't. Well, that's not super dark.
Yeah, wait, hold on. You got. I meant like a dark upside down.
Like an upside down, like an upside down goatee. So his beard is like on his upper lip, goes up over his nose, but then just a thin wisp on the chin. Yeah, just an inverted goatee.
Yeah.
I hate that guy.
So what's good, guys? How are we doing? What's going on?
Merry Christmas to you all.
Oh,
Christmas in May.
Yeah, Christmas in May, end of May.
Happy Memorial Day to the last 3 people who are alive who fought in World War II. I can't wait till we can just do away with that holiday.
That's honestly insane to think about. I don't know why it's so insane to think about, but that kind of boggles my mind. That
it feels like all the Vietnam vets are already dead, but there's still a couple
of World War II vets.
Oh, he is. He fought in Vietnam
and the Korean War.
Did he do well?
Yeah, his platoons. if I'm remembering this correctly, he was in 3 platoons that all died except for him.
Nice.
That's considered unlucky, apparently.
Honestly, sick. I would love to be the unlucky army guy who just keeps surviving and
He's in the Navy.
Whatever branch. He was in the Navy and he kept getting his platoons killed? That's so funny.
Yeah, there was a situation in Vietnam where he was in a plane with a bunch of people and it got shot down, and he managed to live. He got out of there in a parachute.
They're like...
I'm kidding. I don't know all the details. I remember telling me some shit and I'm like, yeah, that's fucking great. I'm trying to play Mario for N64 grandfather.
I'm trying to grind stars right now.
This is the real war going on. Look at what Mario's doing.
It'd be really funny if he was just stationed on a docked ship in California and everyone died during the Korean War, before they even deployed. Just somehow everybody died except for him, and it's like, all right, we're gonna just see what happens when we're gonna put him in a new platoon. Hopefully he's not.
His platoons were every single one of them were serial murdered, and my grandfather got away every time.
Exactly what I am getting at. After the first 2 times, it's like, okay, this is a coincidence. You're unlucky, right? You're just an unlucky guy. But by the 3rd time, it's like, we're just gonna discharge you back into the real world. We'll let the normies deal with you. I'm sure they'll be fine.
Yeah, in the 60s and 70s, he lived in San Fran area for a while, and man, he would talk about astrology so much. It was
he was big into zodiac signs and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, "What's your sign?" I'd love to carve it out. What?
He liked crossword puzzles and riddles too, right? He was a cipher guy.
He would send the local police as pranks, just stuff. He'd be like, "I'm gonna
silly
see if I can
jokes,
figure this out."
Yeah,
that's why they never caught him. That's because they were inundated with silly jokes.
Yeah,
they didn't find the actual.
And I don't know if he was the murderer or not, but he sure loved killing people.
There was a crazy thing that I just remembered while we were talking about veterans and all that, but there's footage from 1938 of the last remaining 20 some odd Gettysburg veterans going back to the battlefield and shaking hands. It's like a silent movie,
screaming,
just screaming from the flashbacks, but that's that's relatively
very calmly screaming, walking up to
no.
Damn, that's an image.
But no, it's
oh my god, that's
almost...
so funny to think of some northern troops and some southern troops walking up to each other as 80-year-old men being like, "Huh, I shot at you.
Yeah.
I totally remember shooting at you. Wow, I can't believe I missed all those bullets."
That's
hitting your dead buddy next to you.
Yeah.
But that's crazy because that's
I was aiming at you the whole time, man.
That's
last thing your buddy said to you was he wanted an open casket, and I just kept hitting him over and over again,
just
and
did not let
therefore
that. Yeah.
But
qualified that.
That's just fucking crazy to me because that's almost relatively the same difference in time between Gettysburg and 1983 versus World War II to now. That's like kind of mind-boggling to me a little bit.
I mean, well,
crazy.
The last World War I vet died in our lifetime, right? I think back in like 2011 or 12.
They finally got him.
They finally got him. He was an international spy. They finally tracked him down.
He was so strong.
Finally,
World's
like revenge
strongest,
for
they
the
titled him.
Kaiser.
He was like an anime character, that guy. He was really powerful.
He was 110. I'm pretty impressed.
That's what I'm saying. And he had like 110 million bodies.
Confirmed kills, yeah.
Yeah, it was a good KD.
He's the one, the history doesn't want you to know, but he's the one who single-handedly ended World War II by just taking out every other opposing soldier.
Yeah, they called him the first human nuke before a nuke.
The human nuke.
The Manhattan Project was just trying to get him on a plane.
Yeah.
He was too afraid to fly.
German soldiers were like, what is that? That just landed.
What is that? What is that glowing person that has just been there? And it's just a dude. It's just a dude going ah, and like punching everybody, like running through the street. But speaking of
psychopath.
But speaking of little-known government facts that we're not supposed to know about, I hear Dr. Spin has some conspiracy theories for us that he wanted to discuss.
Sure. There's quite a bit to cover if you'd like, but I guess I'll start off easy. You guys like tunnels?
Love tunnels.
Obsessed with tunnels. Can't get enough of those tunnels.
At the end of the last podcast,
just he makes tunnels out of the furniture in his house when I've showed up.
I have an arcade of Dig Dug in the other room, specifically for the tunnels. Yeah, no.
Tunnels are the best part, by far.
Yeah, I don't like the game,
but the fucking tunnels
that the guy makes. They're really impressive. They're very stable.
They are. He can just keep going and going.
What about tunnels, Dr. Spin?
So I like tunnels. I'm a big fan of dwarves. They're great. They're industrious. All kinds of cool stuff. At the end of your previous podcast, I think I tried to plug real quick a book by a guy named Phil Schneider, which, boy, does it seem like a schizophrenic's wet dream. And it probably is. But he goes crazy about how there's aliens under the Earth's surface and the U.S. government knows about it and all this other stuff. But the cool factual parts of some of his story are that he talks about the U.S. government and the Air Force developing these tunnel boring machines. And yeah,
I'll bleep that. I'll bleep that, and you'll be Dr. Spin still. I did that in the last episode. But is this the guy? Is he dead now?
I'm pretty sure he's dead now, yeah.
And did he claim he got hit with a blue beam from an alien underground? Is this the guy?
Yes.
Said that. Okay.
Absolutely.
I know about this guy.
I am unaware.
The blue beam could have been anything. I mean, there's no evidence it was aliens.
That it took off his arm.
Well, and, I read a theory once that it was the blue light was from the arcade cabinet Dig Dug.
Right.
Oh my God.
I would love a conspiracy guy going around saying a blue alien laser took his arm off, and he's just got both arms. Like,
actually, the reality.
No explanation.
That was kind of the reality of it, though.
Really?
Yeah. Oh my God, yes.
So when he said that,
funny.
he has his arm.
I'm pretty sure he does, because you can view his lectures at all these really like cockamamie conventions about conspiratards.
Hey.
And he's talking, and it seems like he does have both arms.
I wish I was that crazy. Like, that sounds amazing. I would love that.
He's just like that guy from 127 Hours, amateur. He says he cut off his arm. He only has one arm. I lost an arm and
Aliens
I got two.
Didn't even cut his arm off, bro. Like, he was underground. He could have used the laser. He could have used a dull knife. What a loser.
So his whole shtick is that he's part of some. He was working for United States government black sites and stuff, and they dug these tunnels, and he was a geologist and all this other shit. But he does vaguely touch on that the United States Air Force has patents for nuclear underground tunnel boring machines, and they exist.
Yeah, I have seen
At least the
like,
patents
concept
do.
art and stuff. They look great. I like it.
And I'm no geophysicist, but it seems like the science behind it is pretty sound. You don't have to build a tunnel if you cause enough heat at the surrounding, or while you're digging the tunnel, that it basically forms its own walls. And that's one of my favorites by far, is that the United States government since the 70s has been working on nuclear tunnel boring equipment to build massive underground bunkers in like southwestern part of the United States. It's just good science fiction.
I mean, I've heard you talk about this before, and if I were to describe this conversation to anyone else in my life, they'd be like, "You have lost your mind, Jake. Like, you're fucking insane." But it's really interesting because I remember you saying that these like machines, they drill a tunnel path, then like either around it or behind it is just something really hot from the nuclear energy that kind of like I don't know what it would do, but like seals the walls around it as it goes, or it like superheats them so it's hard.
Yeah,
it makes the tunnel.
If I remember correctly, the like actual drill bit of the thing is like superheated by a nuclear core, and so as it's digging through, it's superheating raw materials and it basically creating a cast wall system around, instead of having to like the way traditional boring machines work, where as it digs through, they have to lay the foundation around it.
Not only
my dad used to do that. Yeah.
Traditional boring techniques, you also have to import a ton of water, because the way you get the rock out is that you have to basically make it a slurry that is 50% water, 50% rock. So for every amount of rock you're digging, you're importing a similar amount of water. And this essentially, the idea of this patent is that you force your way using heat and pressure, and that heat and pressure forces the tunnel walls to solidify on their own, which is pretty cool to me. That's some neat sci-fi bullshit.
Yeah,
it is cool.
I like that also for like going just like deep into the Earth's core and like creating not just bunkers and stuff, but like mines for raw material and like tons of stuff that's trapped like deep in the earth that we can't normally access.
So this is transitioning into the thing Dr. Spin has talked to me about on multiple occasions.
Ooh, I don't know if I can jump straight.
You don't want to go there?
That one yet.
Okay.
Let's keep it grounded a little bit. This one's one that is Here be dragons.
If you're not on board,
here be dragons.
Scare people if they hear that for your own health. But I'm not saying you're crazy. But I'm saying
I wouldn't
just
mind.
met you. I'm saying if they just met you
and this is crazy.
Said the thing.
But here's a conspiracy.
And they do not call me, maybe.
don't call me crazy.
Cut all this out. Don't worry.
So to go back to the tunnel boring stuff, this one is the part that I'm going to transition into is completely grounded in reality. Have you guys heard of Project Iceworm?
No.
In the 1970s, I believe, it was either the 50s, 60s, or 70s, somewhere in there. It was canceled in 66, so it would have started in the 60s. Is in Greenland, which was controlled by, or at least nominally part of Denmark at the time during the Cold War. The United States was like, hey, we're going to set up some cold weather bases for research and stuff. What they didn't tell people was that they put a nuclear reactor in the base, and they wanted to drill hundreds of miles of tunnels and arm them with ICBMs with rail systems underneath, so that they could essentially play whack-a-mole with our ICBM system and completely deter Russia. It didn't work out too well, but it was very much the plan. And they didn't tell the Danish government that they were doing it. They basically mined the shit out of parts of Greenland and were like, oh, let's see if we could put nukes here. Long story short, ice tends to move and collapse, and it didn't quite work out. But they do love their fucking tunnels, and I can respect that. I can get behind that.
I think we even mentioned on a previous episode that we were talking about Greenland back in the day, how the U.S. was trying to acquire it for a while, and then Trump was the one to be like, "Yeah, no, I'll start renegotiating buying Greenland," and we joked that it was because he wanted to turn the whole country into a big golf course. But if now you're saying there's all these mine shafts everywhere, I mean, I guess that's not far off. It's just the longest, biggest game of golf ever conceived.
Yeah, and Matt, if you appreciate tunnels, now when you like play golf, there's like technically a little tunnel that you put the ball in, like you try and get the ball in. You appreciate maybe what Donald Trump might have done, what we theorized what he would have been doing, with the huge golf course.
Potentially, but I think it would have to be a giant game of miniature golf, because in regular golf there's just there's that hole, but in mini golf you hit that ball in the hole and it pops up somewhere totally different.
I know, I love that. It's like that is also tunnels. Continue.
So surprise every time.
That is also tunnels.
But it has, with Project Iceworm, and I think they called them snowworms or something. I forget what the second part of the project was called. It would have to be massive mini golf balls. Like I'm talking, I'm talking like those kind that you can like hop inside. Those like inflatable balls that you can run around in. You know,
like those
that's
sumo ball things.
Yeah, absolutely.
God, we should do that for an episode.
But not a YouTube exclusive, an audio episode. Just us, the sound of us smacking into each other in a giant inflatable balls.
In those big balls.
So it's all echoey and terrible, and you can't understand. We can't even understand what we're saying to one another.
Yeah,
be a lot of panting.
And we all die, and it would be awesome. Yep.
So before we dive into the edge of the map, where you draw the mythological beings, do you guys believe in Atlantis?
I did see that article recently about that like massive amount of like paved road in the Pacific or something, and that kind of made me be like,
fake news.
Technically, the Pacific would fall under the province of Lemuria if you were going off of mythology. Lemuria would be the South Pacific Indonesia area minus quite a bit of water. And so that
islands can sink, and I say that the ocean levels have been rising.
Well, when you consider what time period Atlantis was supposed to have existed in, it would be around 12,600 BC, which is about 15,000 years ago. And if you know anything about 15,000 years ago, the Earth still had quite a bit of ice on it, and when you take a bunch of ice and put it on the Earth, where it comes from is the ocean, and so your oceans tend to recede. That's why there's been tons of historical and archaeological digs in the Channel of Britain, because 14,000 years ago, that was an area above ground, or above sea level, known as, I believe, Doggerland, Doggerland.
I've heard of Doggerland.
Yeah, and so if you were to take away quite a bit of water from the Earth's surface and lock it up in the ice caps, you would probably find that sea levels looked a lot different back then than they do today. But to get into the pure crazy conspiratorial crap, there's also a large group of religious people of the Judeo-Christian sect that believe that when the Earth flooded, the particular text of the Bible that it talks about includes the fountains of fountains came up from the ocean and the windows of heaven were opened or something like that. And many of them believe that what actually happens there is that that water sublimates beneath the crust of the Earth and it gets stuck there until it eventually builds up like a very large pimple. And at the top of the pimple, the white gross part before it pops, that would be your islands. And then when it does pop, they tend to recede. And along with that, the pure force of the water being shot into the atmosphere causes Earth to lose atmospheric pressure. And that the atmospheric pressure goes along with some ideas that human beings can survive much longer under higher atmospheric concentrations. I believe Israel recently did a research study into the effects of higher atmospheric pressure on humans and found that we live twice as long or so. Just some crazy stuff. But the
Dr. Spin, do these things connect, or are you taking us like all over the place here?
Well, it goes all over the place. They do connect, I think. The idea being that
Tunnels, how they connect to things.
oh, well, the tunnels, that gets back to the dragons, but Atlantis is already halfway off the map. You know, it's down a little bit deep.
What are you talking about, dragons? What is
Dragons,
going on?
dragons were never animals. Let's just say that. Let's just say Dr. Spin has a theory. I don't know if I want to take him there yet. It sounds like he's hesitant to go there, but we don't have to go there.
It's interesting to try to find a transition into that. You know,
I'm trying to do Dr. Spin discredit. I didn't know where he was going. I mentioned something we talked about in private. We might not want to bring this up. I don't know. I'm just here for the ride.
So the initial question was, do you guys believe in the legends of Atlantis at all?
I could
buy into the legend of Atlantis.
I could get behind Atlantis. I'll throw some money towards your idea.
Okay, so I'm a big fan of the whole idea of Atlantis.
What do you, Rob? You're silent. How are you?
I don't think Atlantis is like, it's been proven that there have been like a ton of cities that have fallen beneath the waves, so to speak. But
why couldn't one be Atlantis?
The original Carthage is beneath the waves of the Mediterranean Sea.
Yeah, listen.
Wait, hold on. We need to define Atlantis here, because I just am like, I'm not thinking anything special about Atlantis when I say that. I'm just like, yeah, there was an island and it could have sunk. Are you saying, Rob, like there's something else to what Atlantis was that you're like, no, I don't believe that?
Well, I think the classic definition of Atlantis is like mer people and like science beyond anything that we could comprehend. And I don't
That's
really.
not quite the classic definition of Atlantis. The classic definition of Atlantis is put forth by Plato in that there was quite a few different islands in the Atlantic Ocean that suffered repeated and major cataclysms.
I'm just
you
saying
guys are on like that DC stuff.
Yeah. I'm just saying there was an island that could have existed.
That's what I
can buy into that.
That's what my stance is. I think that there's definitely.
Do you not believe that an island could have sunk?
Rob
you
is
sound like a conspiracy theorist. You're like, how can you not fucking believe this thing that I'm telling you right now?
I can't believe the Earth is fucking flat. I can't believe your ass.
So you reduce the sea level by quite a bit. You have water underneath the surface, or underneath the Earth's crust. It builds up, and from there, the Earth's crust is thinnest beneath the oceans because of the weight of all the water.
Yeah.
So the most likely place for the Earth to find itself rupture and spew all of the moisture that has accumulated beneath the crust is the middle of the ocean. So there's theologians, which is the crazy religious people who study the Bible, who believe that the mid-Atlantic rift is basically a scar from when that zip popped. And that scar would have essentially gone right down the middle of the continent that was once Atlantis. I read a book.
Continent?
Not as large as what you would consider to be a major continent, but also it fell apart a few times through its history because of its location along the Mid-Atlantic Rift and then the eventual rupture of all the moisture underneath the crust. Continent might not be the best word for it, but it's much larger than a simple island. At least in Plato's writings, it was a very large collection of islands. And one of the books that I've read on it that's considered absolute pseudoscience, so take it with as many grains of salt as you can fit in your mouth, is called The History of Atlantis by Lewis Spence. And it puts forth some pretty interesting ideas. That's as far as I'll go for recommending it. It is an interesting story for sure, but he pulls a lot from Plato. And one of the most interesting parts about Plato's story is that most people treat it as allegory, an allegory for a utopia or a land that never existed. But in the actual translation of the Timaeus, which is where Plato wrote about it, he repeatedly states throughout his description of Atlantis, and believe me, for what I tell you is true. And he does not say that in any of his other allegories.
I know a lot of liars that have said that.
I was gonna say, Donald Trump built a whole social media app based around that fucking phrase
truth.
itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, come on.
But I don't think Trump cites
Donald
his source
Triton
as being. Yeah, sorry.
Donald
I was
Triton
gonna say
is
trite,
the king of
just 'cause I
Atlantis.
find him
Yeah.
Trite.
Donald Triton is the god emperor of Atlantis. That's the theory that I choose
He's
to
a
believe now.
storyteller, just like
Yeah.
Plato.
And Plato claims that his sources are that it's either that his grandfather was approached
Wikipedia.
or something like that, but he cites that an Egyptian priest, one that is sort of the keeper of the old secrets of knowledge, are what impart this to him. It's where he hears the story from. So it's not even a first-hand account by any means, but under his view, the Egyptians,
Very reliable.
in some way, are
Kooky
related
old
to it.
fucking priest who's sad.
Would hold up in court for sure.
He's like had a sad life, and he's just like, oh, there was a fucking Atlantis right there in front of me one day. Anyway, I'm sorry. Tunnels.
So there's a lot of different things with digging beneath the earth, but as humans, we're kind of relegated to the area above the crust or around the crust. We're on the crust, we're in the crust, but we don't go very deep into the crust.
We need
When
sun.
I eat pizza, I go deep into the crust.
Oh, I love crust.
Crust is so good.
We got
Continue.
pizza last Friday at work, and all my coworkers like threw their crust away.
Such a
and,
waste.
What?
Such
Yeah.
a waste.
That's some privileged rich kid shit.
It
I'm
really
sorry.
bummed me the fuck out.
You didn't pick through the garbage to eat their crust.
I had a moment where I was like, this just is such a fucking waste of crust right now.
I'm sorry. How do you guys feel? I don't mean to like totally throw this shit to the side here, but you guys like, you know, were you taught to finish your plate growing up?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And even if it
Okay.
was something
So you
I
guys don't-
didn't like, then it was like you had to at least eat 1 or 2 bites of it.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to
And do you
leave the
guys
table.
do leftovers? Do you guys do leftovers and shit like that?
Yeah.
I do
Yeah,
From time to
leftovers.
time.
I do leftovers. So he's not going to listen to this. He doesn't listen to this podcast. But I took a trip to Boston with former hosts of the podcast. Actually, 2 former hosts of the podcast, Zach and Brennan. People who have listened to this podcast know who they are. And we were driving up, and we switched drivers. And there was a miscommunication. Brennan thought he was driving while I thought I was going to drive. We were taking over for Zach. And Brennan goes and gets a large iced coffee from Dunkin' Donuts. He sees I have the keys, and I get into the front seat. Didn't even take a sip of that thing, and he threw it in the fucking trash can
Nice.
to be all dramatic. I thought that was the craziest thing I'd ever seen in my life. I hope, you know, if everyone thinks that's crazy, tweet at us. Hashtag that's crazy. If people don't think that's crazy, say
Hashtag
That's not crazy.
crying
down.
over spilled coffee.
yeah, that's me. Right, overload coffee. Continue.
Such a fucking waste of good coffee.
I told him, I was like, I would have drank in that, man. He was like, no, I got that to fucking drive, and then I see you driving.
It's
Fuck
like, no,
that.
you don't deserve the energy. Okay, I do. It was mine. Like, yeah,
When I
that's
called
awesome.
him out about it later, he was so mad at me. So mad. It was insane. He had a glint in his eye like he wanted to really hurt me. It was scary.
You made him waste that coffee.
Now, money grows on trees for a guy like that. I'm just saying. He's much more successful since he left this podcast. He has his own podcast now. He's like part of Joe Rogan's squad, the
Oh, he's
Death
huge.
Squad. They kill it.
Brendan's the one who did the rug pull on Terra Luna, actually.
Oh my god! And when
Yeah.
he does stand up, It's like
Oh,
he has
so
a machete in his hand,
Yeah.
and he's cutting the audience down. He's sawing them with a saw, and he has a gun. It's comedy, and he's shooting everyone in the face, and it's like they're laughing, but they're dying because it's the gun. Anyway,
I was gonna say, yeah, his comedy is just he goes into the crowd with a machete, laughing, and then
Joe
everyone
Rogan's
tries
there,
to
and
run
he's like,
away.
"He's
Yeah,
The original Joker.
yeah,
Joker was
he's
written
killing
about
them.
him.
Yeah, the Joker is.
killing
Joe
them.
Rogan
This
is like, this is comedy. This
This
is what
is
it's all been leading to.
It's like, come with me and Tony Hinchcliffe. We're gonna take over Texas. They're killing
Shred the
people,
balls.
and it's comedy.
Yeah, sorry, Dr. Spin.
No, it's okay. I do want to point out that it sounds like his dramatic effect was incredibly effective because you remember it so vividly to this day.
No,
That's what I'm saying. This is
drama
like,
queen is all I'll say. Hashtag drama queen if you think that was drama queen. Hashtag Jake calm down if you think I'm speaking.
Hashtag Steve McQueen, just because.
Hashtag
Yes.
Chris, just because.
That
hashtag
too.
drama McQueen. Yeah.
Dude, okay. We're gonna be famous after this episode. I just know it.
We're going viral. So tunnels.
So tunnels. So I keep mentioning that this stuff gets mentioned in religious texts and that theologians or whatever fixate on some of this crap because it gets kind of interesting. The idea that some things that have happened in our past we're still not so sure about, etc., etc. And the interesting part about that is the whole idea of the flood being something that God said he'd never do to this planet again. And if it was caused by this water sublimating beneath the crust and then accumulating beneath the oceans and then bursting forth, well, yeah, it'll never happen again in humans' lifetimes. So it's kind of what I'd call an empty promise on the part of God. But the point behind that is that
Blasphemy.
yeah, absolutely. Blasphemer, infidel, heretic. The point is that those empty promises come from something beyond human and that already knows what's going to happen and cares what's going to happen to humans and stuff like that. And the long and short of it is that if there is something that knows that sort of thing about our planet, why? Who gives a shit? Why do they give a shit would be a better one. And so the really deep dark place is that the idea that our planet is being mined for resources, but it's not humans doing the mining. Because lots of valuable resources get accumulated on a planet when it's forming, but because that happens when the planet is forming, it tends to be constricted to the areas of the planet that humans will not go, aka the mantle or the core, where it's very hot and molten. And so how do you extract resources from a place like that? And that
Dragons.
is where I say, here be dragons.
Yeah, I remember this is the part you told me about. Now, these aren't the traditional, the way, you picture a dragon in your head. You go, that's a big lizard with wings. It breathes fire. I don't think so.
I mean, it might kind of look like a lizard. It might breathe fire, but I don't think its intention is to breathe fire. My personal belief is that it is meant to swim, quote unquote, swim through the more deeper and hotter parts of a planet in order to consume rare and precious resources that get accumulated during a planetary formation. And it gets there's a lot of dumb stuff behind it. I like pulling from Chinese mythology and things like that, Japanese mythology. There's quite a few different mythos that talk about dragons, but even the Bible includes a dragon. I think there's supposed to be one asleep under Mount Etna or something like that. And so lava
There's a
tubes
fucking
are
13-headed dragon that comes out of the sea, man. Revelations.
Yes, there is.
Beowulf had a dragon.
Beowulf. he fought a monster.
You
and it
guys
was a
ever think
dragon.
that the Bible was just trying to be cool?
No.
Like the way
Oh,
George
no.
R.R. Martin was trying to be cool when he wrote Game of Thrones. Like,
The next
I
year of
thought
the dragon
about-
is 2024, baby.
I think that,
here it
like,
comes.
you know...
The last one was 2012.
What's gonna happen? Oh my god!
But Matt, what you're saying is that, you know, people back in the day, they didn't know how to articulate, didn't know what they were looking at when they saw, let's say, an advanced thing. This is like some ancient alien shit, basically, right here.
Oh, it is. Absolutely.
Yeah, and so, like, you're saying that these dragons were, like, advanced machinery that could go down into the earth and get some, you know, rare earth metals or resources or something. And if you think about it in that way, you know, what are dragons always hoarding in lore? You know?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's what I
Where do they
thought.
hoard it?
I know.
Rob just looks fed up with this.
I normally really like the conspiracy stuff, but this one, I don't know. This one's like affecting me in a weird way. I'm not sure why.
Oh, let me tell you, I am not fully behind this, but I think it is super interesting to think, hey, that's like, you know, that's just a cool thing to think about.
Yeah.
That's how I like thinking about it. Is like, whether that really means jack shit to me or not, which it really doesn't. It is really cool, and I remember the first time Dr. Spin told me about this, I was very high, and I was like, yes.
That'll do it.
I don't know.
Absolutely
like,
do
this
it with
is,
any
this is
conspiracy
very
theory.
fun. I was like, this is so much fun. And dwarves, like, well, now that we're putting stuff together, these are just gray aliens that this guy, Phil Schneider, whatever his name is, got shot with a blue laser beam and he lost his arm, but when he talks about it, he has his arm. Everything is tunnels.
Everything is tunnels.
Everything is tunnels. Everything is
Chris
weird when you're
Demansky,
talking
how
about
you
conspiracies. Everything is tunnel.
You thought Rob was unhinged. I'm experiencing full-blown
The shit's fucking crazy.
right now.
I
don't know.
Psychotic breaks are to be expected.
As
happens when you deal with enough bullshit.
as a firm believer in the
We're supposed to talk about Men tonight, the movie.
As a firm believer
happened.
in the bottomless ocean, I don't think that I can get behind the idea of dragons going to the core of a planet because
That's a good point.
I don't
yeah.
think there is a core to the planet.
That's something we all kind of forgot at the beginning of this conversation. You know, it's hard to take any theory, scientific or otherwise, with, you know,
I think we should also
shred of
say,
integrity.
because we should also, I think you're getting to it, Rob, but everybody, this is parody. We don't believe any of what we're saying at all. Kind of.
Wink.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, when you're talking any theory, like a theory of relativity, the theory of evolution, any of this stuff, you have to, like, really shut down the internalized understanding of the bottomless ocean if you want to even, like maybe that's why I'm having such a hard time with this one, because so hard for me to turn off the reality that is the bottomless ocean.
We live on an infinite pillar that is just water all the way down.
Yeah,
Pillar,
and like the way
yeah.
I'm handling all of this is like I'm totally out of, like, you know, I'm not caring about any of this, and I'm sorry, but like, and I don't give a shit about any of this, and I'm not invested, but I'm having fun. I'm here, and
I'm enjoying
you know,
my stay.
and I'm just like, you guys are basically saying a bunch of words, and I'm going, yeah, yes. And yeah, you know, I'm just here, and I am enjoying it, but you know, it's not changing anything in my reality or the way I think. I just, you know, I'm one of these
The
guys,
Dragons one
man.
is interesting. I mean, I don't know.
Dragon one is super fun,
Yeah.
and you know,
any theory that goes and tries to, like, explain an ancient mythos and has a pretty concrete, like, concrete idea of what it could be, yeah, I can kind of get behind. I mean, like you
I
said,
don't know.
Jay, the very first thing I thought when dragons came up, and I was like, oh, yeah, they hoard gold and gems and shit. Like, that's gotta come from somewhere if that's, you know, a reality, right?
It is fun to be like, yeah, why did they say that? you know.
And in
Like,
the Chinese
that's a
mythos,
weird
the things that
thing.
really get me about the dragons are that should you cause a dragon to bleed, the blood that falls on the ground is acidic and it will destroy the earth beneath it. Should you destroy the gem, or rather the pearl, underneath a dragon's mouth, it will be unable to ascend into the sky. There's a bunch of very, very strange details about some of the mythos that sound a lot like, hey, somebody just destroyed its external guidance system. Oh, shit.
Right.
The stuff that makes up the things that course through a dragon's quote-unquote veins is kind of like the hydraulic fluid of a big-ass megastructure.
Yeah.
It gets pretty interesting. There's also some other really, really wacky stuff with the moon involved with the dragon mythos, and for that I would push you towards looking up the Clementine conspiracy theory or Project Golden Dragon. I fell into it a couple years ago where a guy was looking at all the like mission patches for the Apollo programs and found that there was going to be another Apollo mission, but they changed it last minute to be a satellite orbital flyby of the moon, but they never announced what they found. And then later when Google did satellite flybys of the moon, there's a very large section on the dark side of the moon that is just completely blurred out. But the way that you take pictures of the moon is you do it in strips. And so there was an intentional obfuscation of a very large section of the moon for a set period of time.
Of images.
Yes,
yeah.
and not only do you have to blur a bunch of images in a row, but because it's in strips, you then have to blur the same number of images on the next pass. And it was a large number of passes all in the same area, creating a rectangle of blurred imagery that you could not see. And it also happens to be the same location that a majority of both Russia and the United States dark side moon research has gone into, which is a massive crater on the backside. And he starts claiming that this is the entrance to the moon base where the dragons go before they come to Earth, sort of shit. It gets real fucking wacky real fucking quick, but I love it. It makes me happy to see how crazy people can be.
It's super interesting to think about. But what's funny is, you know, like how normal people like in society, I'm talking your winos, I'm talking your people that drink every single day and they're just fucked up all day. This is normal. This is normal now. Just everyone is fucked up all the time.
It was normal 600 years ago. So
it was normal 600
now.
years ago. It's just the standard. Like, I think anyone listening to this podcast probably isn't normal, and if they are,
more power to you.
More power to you. But I think you drink a lot is what's happening. And I think that when these people, normal people, the majority, let's say, they hear stuff like this, they go, "What?" Like they didn't hear you at all because they didn't, and then they go, no, the taquitos are over here, man. And they're saying that to the waiter, and they don't care what you just said to them at all. And they're like, I only have to be here another hour with you. I'm gonna order a lot of more wine. I don't have to deal with this conversation. I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna Netflix it up. I'm gonna Amazon Prime this shit up tonight, and they're gonna have a dream about a dragon coming to them, and they're gonna wake up and they're gonna be like, "Where's my wine?" No, they don't care.
Fetch me my wine.
No one wants to think about any of this stuff, unfortunately. Even though it's really fun and like interesting to think about, it's like that's my point. A lot of people drink too much.
If you have a kid, it's got to be hard to like get into conspiracy theories, you know?
No, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if this has been said by like funnier people than me or like more prestigious comics. I'm not a comic, but I've thought this thought before. This might be a Jake's funny thoughts for a moment, but I'm like, people in the hood or people of low income, you really don't have time to worry about ghosts or things like that. You just don't have the luxury to be like, there's a ghost here, I have to move out. No, you have to pay bills. Like, you have to worry about getting a meal. You have to worry about like all this other shit. And if a ghost is there, you're just kind of like, fuck off.
Yeah.
I don't fucking care about you, bitch. Like, I'm
just
fucking
can you
gonna kick your ass,
imagine?
ghost.
Can you imagine like waking up and seeing irrefutable evidence that ghosts exist and just being like, Man, I don't have the time or the money to deal with this.
I gotta go.
I don't have a sick day, okay? If I had a sick day,
if you're gonna be
haunting
haunting this house, you better be contributing to the rent.
Yeah. You go to my cabinets? Okay, you owe me money. Like, don't touch
my
the
fucking
pantry.
cereal, motherfucker. I'm
Yeah.
gonna kick your fucking ass.
He's just like gets home from a long day of work, sits down, is having a drink, and then like somewhere else in the house a door just mysteriously slams, and he's like, "Really? What kind of bills do you pay to be slamming doors in this house?" Like,
open that, or the air conditioning won't circulate, and we're wasting money. Okay.
Fuck, you better not wake me up, because I will fucking kill you in the afterlife.
I work 2 jobs. I get 5 hours of sleep every night, and you're putting me through this bullshit right now.
That's another thing I thought is like, just telling a ghost, if you fucking keep fucking with me, when I die, you are fucking toast. Like, fuck you up nonstop.
Just be like, I've got a very short list, okay? And you're about to be on it.
You're about to be number one.
I'm gonna Freddy Krueger your ass. Whatever that means.
I've got a live people I want to haunt, but no, I'm gonna fucking find you.
Do you think
my mom
there's a next level of ghosts?
What's up?
Yeah.
Like there's ghosts, and then there's some sort of being that haunts ghosts.
Yes.
It's called demons.
It's called demons. I didn't. Oh, okay.
There's a class system to them as well. You gotta watch
Yeah,
out for class
but
has.
demons also haunt us. So like.
Yeah, but like.
Is it like
ghosts are also?
They haunt us for sport.
Ghosts aren't conscious. Like it's just a memory of energy locked in. That's all it is. It's like the wind. It just happens. I'm just crazy right now. But my mom said, when she passed would haunt me, and she started laughing like crazy, and I didn't like that.
And then her head spun around.
Yeah, her head spun around. She started vomiting.
I don't have
green
fucking time
goo.
for this. I got bills to pay, bitch.
Yeah.
I think that's just parents. I think like as they get older, they just realize that they can just say morbid shit to you for no reason. Because like my mom on multiple occasions has gone to me and my siblings and said, "Okay, so just so you know, the plan is when I get so old that I don't remember who I am or what I'm doing anymore, you're going to take me out for a nice picnic in the park. You're going to sit me down on a bench and say, 'I'll be right back, Mom,' and then you're just going to walk away." And I'm like, "Mom, why would you ever say that to me?" Like,
first of all, we're going to go skydiving. But I'm already going to be the trainer, and it's going to be a tandem jump. So you're going to be strapped to my front.
Yeah, so someone needs to explain to your mom, like, the paperwork you're gonna have to deal with if that's the like end of her life. I constantly like envision my mom, because my mom keeps telling me she's gonna go out gracefully, and I'm like, one day I'm just gonna wake up to a phone call that she just like went out into the ocean and never came back, and like already had herself declared legally dead before doing it, just to save me the headache of having to go through that.
You know what's crazy? She goes out into the ocean. She finds a tunnel. Okay.
Right.
Atlantis. Who's calling you? Your mom from Atlantis.
She's living twice as long now. She's gonna outlive me, and I'm never gonna get that inheritance.
The pressure down there is keeping her alive, and she's going, "I'm gonna haunt you when I'm dead, though." And you're like, "Stop."
I don't think my dad is haunting me. I don't think my dad gives a fuck about me, honestly.
Don't see all the shit going on behind you when you're recording this.
I have often thought to myself, like,
There's
if
a
my dad
dry
actually
erase
cared,
board hovering behind Rob. It's like, "You piece of shit, I am haunting you. Just fucking notice me."
Yeah. all the horrible shit that happened to me.
But Rob is just consciously ignoring it because he's like, I can't give him the satisfaction of
like, Dad, I have
letting
bills
him know
to
I
pay.
know.
Yeah.
I can't deal with this. There's bills to be had. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, unless you have like a spare like month's worth of rent somewhere stashed in here, like leave me the fuck alone.
Whatever unfinished business you have, Ghost, better pay pretty damn good.
Yeah, for
or you
real.
better start praying.
Unfinished business.
Damn you to
right
hell.
Yeah.
I've been trying to sell my soul. I've got a new kind of like thought process that's like,
Just not worthy, apparently.
well, yeah, that's so that was my thought for a while. Was like I've really like been open to the concept of selling my soul, and just no one showed up, right? But I do believe people can sell their souls, and
eBay banned that.
well,
Hey, Rob.
I'm sure. So my new thing is like every night before I go to sleep, I like take like a solid 10 minutes and really do a lot of like, okay, like I'm here. I'm at the business table right now. Like here's my briefcase. I got my soul inside. Like I try
Folks,
to
what
mentally
all that
be
means
like,
is that Rob is on all fours and he's spreading his butt cheeks.
yeah. I'm just again like until someone.
I don't think
or
you can
something
sell
comes
your soul
along.
until you have 99 fire making.
Yeah, you're not worth
Never
it,
gonna
like
happen,
I
man.
said.
No, I the other night I was like, just in and out of sleep pretty hard, and I had fallen asleep in the living room, and I just kept kind of imagining, like I was saying to myself, like, I am open to selling my soul, just someone come and, I just want the power of the money. I don't care about the afterlife bullshit. Like, I'll do whatever. And I just kind of kept thinking about, like, if someone knocked on the door right now, like anybody, not even like actually
so
like
scared.
a demon, I would freak the fuck out, right? It could be my
so scared.
it could be my upstairs neighbor telling me that there's a fire and we need to evacuate, and I would just have a heart
There's a
attack.
fire.
in
You
that-
need to
yeah.
sell your soul to me.
Just sell your soul to put it out.
Fire sale of souls.
Selling my soul to put out a fire? Fuck
It's
you.
the fire of the damned, and they demand one soul for it to be extinguished.
Yeah. I would only sell my soul for like $200 million and a little bit of power. Not even that much power, just like a teensy bit of world
You're
power.
a TikTok influencer.
Basically, that would be fine. That would be good enough for me, if I'm being totally
Doing
frank.
these sexy little dances, and you're,
Yep.
you go to OnlyFans after that, and you're
Good
kind
for,
of a
good
success.
works for me. I just need, a little following. That's all I want. The 200 mil. I want a little following. You think about all the money in the world and how crazy inflation is right now. It's like a demon can definitely swing 200 mil. Like my soul is a
Demon right now
bargain.
can't
Okay.
afford to buy a soul right now. That's how
Oh,
bad
come on.
inflation is.
I think the soul market is like lower than ever, and I think that I think
You're
my
really selling
soul-
yourself short right now.
my soul is a bargain at 350 million. Okay, I want like
350
half of
million.
that.
How many MMOs have you played?
Don't
And
worry
the
about
Dow is so low right now. I mean, things are rough for everybody.
I'm pretty sure for every MMO, you got to knock
Dude,
off at least
oh my
one
God.
quarter.
It would be so funny if the Dow Jones like secretly also like was based off the price of fucking souls.
The
like,
soul.
Is it not?
Well, they-
I'm pretty
they
sure
certainly
that's
affect
reality.
I guess. I mean, in more of like a literal sense, like there's a
talking
backroom
literally.
office where
The Soul Jones.
This is like when we were trying to figure out what Atlantis meant to us. It's this whole souls business.
Microsoft
What do you
did the
mean?
math.
You mean
Okay,
literally there's a thing?
human beings are like worth $103, right? So
You said that. I'm worth way more. I got an offer.
Oh yeah, you got
I mean,
an offer.
By raw materials, we're only worth like $4 in potassium at best.
It's the like working life, it's the fact that like
Yeah.
most people, to pay for a working life's worth of time, that a company can absorb from you, it breaks down to like the world average is like 102 or 103 bucks. American lives are valued closer to like 250, 300, and it's like other countries that kind of bring the average down. But yeah, we're a good species. We've done good things for each other. But yeah, man, if anyone knows any demons who are just kind of out on the hunt for a bargain, and I'm not picky, I'll negotiate. Okay, like we can. It just doesn't have to be like a.
Well, if you were not picky, you wouldn't negotiate. So you're kind of like, no, you're saying some things and they don't really make sense.
You're really making it easier to drive the price
Yeah.
down.
I didn't
Sound
say
like,
how low
you sound
I
like
go.
an idiot, dude. You just sound like
I
an idiot.
sound
You
like an
just-
idiot. No.
I'm easy to work with. I'll negotiate. No, you just don't negotiate. Okay?
I'm
You just
saying
take
like
what you get.
I'll lower
Would you
the
sell
money.
your soul to an alien?
Would you? Because they're the same thing as demons.
Then yes. I mean,
According to Phil Schneider, all right, tunnels.
If they're the same thing, yeah, then I guess you know.
Would you prefer an alien from our solar system, or from another solar system, or an extra-dimensional entity altogether?
An extra-dimensional entity. Because the problem is, like, grifters, you know? Like, if you're from my solar system...
If they are interacting with humans, they are guaranteed a grifter. You do not have a choice in that one.
I think the interdimensional ones have, like, so much bigger things they could be doing that it's like, why are you, you know, there's got to be something in it that makes sense for you to be giving up your, like, time.
No. It's bigger to us, but it's the same thing as putting a whoopee cushion under, you know, under someone's chair to them when they fuck with you. You know?
Hey man, if that's what $200 million and a little bit of power is, it's just a big whoopee cushion under my butt.
Well, you've already talked down your price pretty extensively.
No, you see, again, the negotiating is like, I'm willing to drop
like
some of the monetary value for some more power, because like a demon could show up and be like, listen, I'm a little light on the coinage right now, but I have a huge following of people who I could get on your bandwagon. You know, I could pump up your podcast numbers. I could pump up your YouTube. You know, like that's kind of where I'm thinking. It's like I might not be able to get a whole 200 million up front, but if I could get enough power on the other end of the scale over like 10 years.
At that point, yeah.
Yeah. It's like instead of an immediate, it's like when you get an insurance payout and they're like, do you want the lump sum or do you want installments? Like I'm willing to negotiate on like an installment plan of sorts, you know.
I'm kind of a lump sum kind of
but
guy.
I'm just, yeah, you know, I'm just kind of thinking like, if a demon came for you and you're not worth shit, they're definitely just trying to get to Jacob or I, or even Doctor.
The Emmy is a big deal because you're already kind of like.
Emmy's a big deal. The fact that I'm like very talented with music and comedy and stuff, that's a big deal. And
the Emmy goes for $350 on eBay. I wonder what the soul conversion is like on that.
Really? It's only worth $350?
Yeah.
Well, those are fakes. We've already looked this one up. Those are fake Emmys in a similar style and shape. Yeah, real one. There's definitely a little bit more value to that.
A real one, then yeah. Well, there's no telling how many souls.
Yeah, that's priceless. That's priceless. You know.
Yeah, I feel
like that might play against your value because it's like you've already got like a certain amount of power that someone like I don't.
Well, I think it just means he can trade the Emmy instead of his soul. He can keep the soul, ditch the Emmy, and walk away with the money and the power.
I could just Indiana Jones it at the last second. They think that they're getting my
You
soul, and then I just
swap it.
yeah, like
$350 on eBay. You can make this happen.
The Emmy award weighs exactly the same amount as a soul. That's science.
It's like 10 pounds, if that. Easy way to lose weight too is just have your soul removed. You'll be 10 pounds down instantly.
No, it's not 10 pounds. Some dickhead who's an idiot said it's like 20 grams or something.
Oh yeah, is that guy that tried to measure people's weight?
Yeah, it's the guy who's like, there's like 20 ounces of weight unaccounted in the human body, and we can never.
Like when people die, they're minus 21 grams.
Yeah,
and
pretty sure that's because they shit themselves.
Well, yeah,
they'll shit themselves, but also like the air kind of leaves your lungs.
Yeah.
Maybe
your soul's actually
insane.
far
Everything
up your
we've
asshole.
talked about is sound and solid. You just said is fucking insane. Okay, need to get your fucking life.
No,
together,
see what happens is
that
when
was
you
insane.
when you die, the dragons leave the tunnels that are your blood veins.
Thank you.
And
Back to reality.
Speaking of reality, on the subject of extra-dimensional beings, do you think that they would be able to travel faster than the speed of light?
I don't know, probably.
Somewhere out there's some dimension where they
Bet
can.
if anyone could do it, it'd be those guys.
Probably.
Yeah, okay. Do you know how long it would take to cross the Milky Way galaxy at the speed of light? About 100,000 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
well,
if you can even...
We just found a, well, I say we, but like, no, they recently found a, like, moon or, like, a small, it's like Kepler 186 something or other. It's, like, near identical conditions to Earth, and it's, like, the closest one we found yet, and you'd still have to travel at the speed of light for, like, 500 years to get to it.
Yeah, but that's human years, you know. That's
Yeah.
years we've been spinning around our fucking nuclear fireball or whatever. But imagine something that lives a little bit longer, or rather doesn't die. You
Well,
know,
this
that
is
does
you're
that's some
talking
tiny
about
shit.
you're talking about folding space and time through a wormhole like thing where you can just
A
pop
worm
out
tunnel,
somewhere else.
if you will.
Another type
potentially.
of tunnel is what you're
Definitely
speaking.
another type of tunnel.
Oh,
I don't know if the tunnel would go from point A to point B in our reality. I'm no theoretical physicist, but if you're doing extra dimensional shit, I assume that if you really wanted to, you go from point A to point A1 and then pop out at point B1. Um, Point is that Milky Way is kind of small. You can go pretty fast and you live kind of long. You know?
I think that's the issue, right?
Yeah.
Is, like with all space travel is just the time constraint of it all. I mean, that's why sci-fi came up with like cryo
Warp
story
speed and
humans and
yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
But even then,
Yeah.
like, there was all I didn't read the article, but there was in the same on the same webpage that I read about that the Kepler thing. It was it was like theoretically we could use cryogenics to make it there and have the time not be an issue. But I mean, realistically, like even if I didn't read the article, but it was basically like a sub article about like even if cryogenics like reached like the peak of like what we can conceive in terms of like what we can do technologically, not even just now but in the future, it just doesn't work in the way that it there would be long-term effects that we like, because like the brain damage of like being frozen or like the brain damage of like being asleep for that long. It's like, yeah, there's no way that we could ever
Yeah, but that's
solve
human
this.
shit. You know,
Yeah.
we were talking about extra dimensionals. What if they just take their brain out of our dimension and then pop it back in when whatever they sent arrives?
You know what, Matt? There's like, I'm paraphrasing this quote, but there's like a Buddhist who has said, that he was basically like, how ridiculous is it that we're like actually trying to make it to the moon physically? He was talking about getting there in your mind, or like what would be, I guess, like astral projecting. Said like we lack so much spiritual, kind of nature to us that it's pathetic we're trying to do it that way. And
Hey, we
I don't
get
know
it.
if
Though.
that's in line with what you're talking about or not, but you
A little
reminded me of that.
Yeah, that's kind of the basis to the whole like lizard people conspiracy and all that ancient alien shit. Um, which I don't know. I've been dancing around a little bit, but some of it is if you accept that there are much more advanced beings in our solar system, and then you understand the rarity of a planet like Earth, that rarity means value, and that value means that somebody's probably staking their claim, probably more than one somebody. And so I don't know, looking out for number one, which to me is me, but on the longer scale, it'd be
Me, it's
humanity
also
in
you.
general. Oh, thank you.
Love you.
I'm number one. And so like when you get into the idea of extracting planets for natural resources, we have tons of science fiction about it. But like I'm looking for science fact. I'm looking for things a little bit more grounded in reality, even if they are on a longer time scale than we're used to dealing with.
Mhm.
So here be
Here I
dragons.
Here be
Just drinking a
dragons.
beer.
Yeah.
Here, dragon.
Here be dragons, and here be tunnels.
And like, you have people like fucking Beowulf, who's like,
Here be
Mondstadt.
Beowulf.
Yeah, it's you don't know anything. You think that's a monster? That's a machine. Anyway, tunnels.
Don't think about tunnels until we end up in one. It is interesting, the idea of like, why are you idiots trying to build a rocket when you could just go there in your head?
Oh, actually, that transitions into something really interesting to me. I think it's called Project Stargate, which was 1970s CIA. Stargate.
Oh, is this when they tried to work with people who claim to be psychic and ESPs, and
Yep.
they would do astral projection testing?
Yes, sir. And do you know what they focused on?
Well, I don't know, but I remember there's an example where probably some lady was able to look at a satellite in space and read the side of it. I don't know if she was accurate or not. She was probably a loon.
I don't either. I just know that a lot of what they supposedly focused on was the planet of Mars, specific locations on Mars, and then specific locations on Mars about 12,000 years ago.
It's really weird.
Listen, I also just I think that a lot of money got spent by like kooky drunks in the 1950s and 60s and 70s.
There's a lot of evidence of that. By the way.
Just like really ridiculous like alcoholics and drug addicts who had access to the levers of power. I think I the way that you meet like a totally straight-laced like college grad doctor type or lawyer or whatever the fuck who's into like H.G. Lovecraft and like
H.P. What the fuck?
H.P. Lovecraft. Jesus.
He just mixed H.G. Wells and H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah, wow. But like the way that like any number of supposed normal people could be into that kind of shit, right? Like I think there were a lot of CIA and NASA people who were just into science fiction of the time and were like, oh well, fuck it, like we can just, it doesn't matter, like, because the worst reality is that it's all just boring as shit, that science is totally accurate and it's just kind of a boring universe out there. And so yeah, like why not try to get people to like claim they have psychic powers and astral project 12,000 years in the past on Mars to see what we can find. Like
there's
that's what I would do.
I think there's a thread to tug in any of that shit. Truly, I think that the CIA might have some reasons to pull, thread that's out to tug. I don't know if they're accurately, like if they're specifically looking for anything that's meaningful in any way. The way I think about the CIA is that these people are frat house bros who have stumbled upon some intense things, whether they be real world or things we don't know. But the way why I call them frat bros is because of like the playful energy of power that they just kind of wield and how they use that power is like crazy. It's like it's like very bro energy, especially if you kind of look into exactly what happened with like MK Ultra shit. It's like, let's just fuck around, like with acid. Let's fuck up people. Like, let's see what that does. And
well,
like
then they
other
get in
things
contact
with
other actual crazy people, like the doctor who was running MK Ultra, who's
would
like
have like parties and just like find someone who they literally thought couldn't handle it, and then be like, let's fucking give them the acid that they can't handle, like, and just make them feel like they were insane. Like they would just do shit like that all the time. They would find random people on the streets that would be like, that would be crazy if that guy took acid. Give him acid and just kind of be like, yeah, fuck you. Like, like, so there's this weird thing though, where you are at like being an intelligence agency, you are dealing with like the craziest shit that you're trying to like, you're at the forefront of, whether it be, whether you have that energy of a Chad or not, like you are there and you have to deal with it. So it's just funny to be like, these are the people who are like handling things that apparently the public can't even deal with if we were to fucking discover.
Yeah.
And they just want to fuck around all the time. And they are powerful and they do dark things. Every intelligence agency does just shit that's like, we can just like wipe out all those people, right? Like they don't need to know. No one will ever fucking do anything about this. No, I'm going all over the place, but just funny that like, to be like, they're so powerful, and they are, but it's like we all are humans and we all are kind of dumb at some point.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's a symptom of the time, I suppose, that it's like frat bro-y guys, but I'm sure that like back during, the Egyptians' run at being, the kings of the land, the most powerful people, I'm sure that there was like the same energy of like people who maybe shouldn't have power at the forefront making the decisions and like really, whether it was real or not, like the, societies
Take away
that
our
believe
sense
in...
of humor, like it's just like this is very serious, but I don't know what I'm doing. Like,
Well, it's societies that take like curses very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Like my started recently, like with one of my buddies at work who comes from like a deeply religious Hispanic household. He was like, yeah, I've been having these like panic attacks. He like just moved out of his mom's house for the first time in his life. He's living with his girlfriend. He's like, I'm having panic attacks and these like bad dreams where my grandmother comes and tells me I'm gonna die and all this shit. And I told my mom about all this. So right, yeah, she is right. I mean, but
yeah.
He's like, yeah, I told my mom about this, and she gave me a bottle of holy water to spread around my house. I was like, you're
classic placebo.
It's like, you fucking idiot. I was like making fun of him all day. I'm like, you might as well just put salt rings around your bed and shit, like it's
like I have. My mother told me to.
It's
not a salt. All my dishes are awful.
I think it would be like really interesting to find out that the CIA or any other intelligence agency had actually like made contact or discovered anything meaningful, just because
they tried smoking weed out of like the demon core as just a funny prank, and then they like ripped open a wormhole. They're like, yo dude, like that's a fucking dwarf, but it's a gray, and like your arm's gone now, and now it's back, and you're gonna tell people about this, Phil Schneider.
Jesus Christ.
Okay. Tell people,
have you guys seen the studies that show that most people who take DMT have very similar experiences?
Yeah, what are they? They meet the clockwork gnomes.
Yeah.
Or
elves. Clockwork elves, yeah.
Yeah, the long boys.
Those are if you were to encounter interdimensional beings, it would be then. Would be.
Mm-hmm. So why did your brain release that upon death?
I don't know. Do you ask why would it? Or
yeah,
I just think it's part of it is like we just can't even comprehend the idea that like we're about to end, like our consciousness is about to like stop. So it's our brain's way of being like, okay, let's just kind of like ease him into this a little bit and
go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Let's do anything other than this right now.
Yeah,
it sounds like uploading
he
a
needs to be high enough that he can die without freaking out right now.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
That's kind of my.
I want to let Dr. Spin get to his point, but the thing that people say is, oh, it's your way of, your body comforting you, or your mind comforting you in that time of death. Here's the thing. You hear a lot of people saying, oh, I see the tunnel of light, and that's like the start of the trip, basically. There are people who literally are like, there's nothing. It's dark. Like, oh my god, I'm seeing demons. They're tearing me apart. That is a real thing. There are like people who go to hell, like, and they've come back to life and be like, I was in hell. I was literally in hell.
I think that's the same thing. It's just your subconscious.
No,
like,
I'm saying it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
But I have a feeling, and correct me once I finish. But
I mean, it's the rocket fuel that projects you, whatever you are, into the next dimension, right?
It's you're meeting the arbiters, okay? You're meeting the clockwork gnomes or elves or whatever, and they're deciding your worth, possibly. They're deciding, how can I harvest this right now? Are you worth it to me? Take you to heaven? I'll harvest all your organs out of your soul. I don't know what's going on. Matt, Dr. Spin, I'll bleep all that.
Well, to me, it just sounds like you're uploading. It really just sounds like you're connecting to the Wi-Fi and somebody's making a backup. And like sometimes the backup has data that you find useful, and sometimes the backup is just information to be destroyed. Go to the recycling bin. That's your hell. But that's kind of where I'm at. That's why it seems like people have those shared experiences and seeing the arbiters, I guess, the clockwork gnomes and the long boys. It really just seems like
Wait, who are the long boys?
people typically see two groups when they upload, and one is very long, thin ones. And if you read the interview from Project Stargate, they sound very similar to what the CIA was looking at on Mars
Are you
a million
meaning to,
years ago.
Are you meaning to tell me that, like, after all the fucking time I spent getting over Slender Man, he's actually real?
He's
Yeah,
one of.
he's a real
part
thing.
of a
He's
bigger
real, but he
fucking
probably
shit.
died on Mars.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Well,
no.
Matt, I mean, Dr. Spin Jesus. In the
I'll go by
in the
any
game,
of those names.
in the game Bloodborne, which is inspired by
Yes.
H.P. Lovecraft, like lore. So basically, the premise of the game is that normal people you can't see anything outside of the norm unless you are going crazy, and when you start to go crazy, you start to see, I guess, a layer of dimension, a fold of dimension that is not there when you're not insane, but it's really happening.
Yeah, it's
And
otherwise invisible.
It's otherwise invisible, but what the premise of the game is that, or one part of the big premise is that there are these gods that exist, and these gods are all the same species but very different individually from each other. So different that they can't breed with each other. So they look to humans to breed with them to continue variations of their species. How they do that is there was one point where they were all physical, and most of them transcended their spiritually or however they did. They don't exist physically anymore. Like, they exist in dreams though, and or most of them. Some have been left behind because they can't transcend, so that you find them deep underground in their physical form, and you kill them, you put them out of their misery. You saying that these long boys, these
long
clockwork
boys.
gnomes, you saying on Mars possibly 12,000 years ago, and this is what the CIA, you're saying they were looking into.
Million, sorry. For the CIA stuff, they wanted just 1 million. Just 1 million.
1 million.
Yeah.
1 million years ago. They existed physically, possibly on Mars, and they transcended somehow. Is that what you're saying? Like Bloodborne deities?
Whew, I don't know if they transcended. I just read through the interview again, and it definitely describes that the person they have doing the astral projection, trying to interface with one of the long boys they find in a pyramid, and the pyramids that they found on Mars in this particular projection are there as essentially dust storm shelters. The problem is that there was no end to the dust storms. They destroyed their own atmosphere, and so they were waiting. They were waiting for help from the outside, which was that some of the long boys left for something that was pretty hard for the person to attempt to describe. It looked like a comet, something like that. And they were waiting. So some of them did transcend. It sounds like some of them were left behind, but they were waiting on their deliverance.
Wow. You mentioned, we're talking about pyramids.
Yeah.
Talking about pyramids on Mars or whatever.
Yeah.
Buzz Aldrin. He's insane practically. He's what I would call the man in Bloodborne who has gone insane. He has too much madman's knowledge from his escapades in space. There's like a weird video of him where he's talking about the obelisks on Mars's moon, and doesn't give any context to what he's talking about, but he says he's seen it. Are these the structures, man?
Oh, that I don't know. Is it on Mars's moon or on Mars?
It's on Mars's one moon, apparently.
Phobos or Deimos? There's a couple of others. Doesn't matter.
Phobos.
Okay.
And
I don't know.
He's batshit crazy, apparently. Like, he's apparently very difficult to deal with in conversation. But he totally subscribes to aliens now.
I can see that.
That's all I gotta say. I guess I'm not posing a question.
Well, I mean,
Huh.
like as one of the few people who has like walked on technically another world. I mean, I don't remember how old he was when he did that, but we're talking like 60 years ago almost. So like you gotta figure that's the high point of his life. He's like, I gotta get enough. I can't have peaked in my young man's days. I need to prove that aliens are real.
I think he could be compensating for the fact that he didn't actually go to the moon and it was staged, and now he's like, the most credible thing for me to do is make a shitload of claims that no one can really contend with on either side.
Well, he's so jokerfied because he's been living this lie forever that he's like, oh yeah, I went to the moon. Oh yeah, there were aliens up there too. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
that's
yeah,
exactly
you believe
what
all
I.
this, you dumb jackass? Yeah, I went to fucking Mars's moon, the obelisk. Ooh, what is that? It's so mysterious that I mentioned just that thing, and you're like, what does that mean? And oh, you're believing it.
That is a pretty big obelisk. Well, monolith, I guess. That is
Monolith.
fucking huge.
Sorry.
300 feet tall. Sheesh.
Said he saw it and he kneeled at it and he wept. I don't know.
And his consciousness became a giant space embryo that stared down at the Earth, and there was orchestra music, and Stanley Kubrick was there and said,
Stanley
"Cut."
Kubrick.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like the tunnel formed.
And then the tunnel formed in space. Just the small little spot of space gave way to a bunch of dirt, and he realized that he was just back on
He
Earth.
realized, holy shit.
All the universe is a tunnel.
It is.
Said, Eureka! It's all tunnels!
Always was.
Wow. This has been a trip. I don't feel well after all
You
this.
don't feel well.
I feel like I've had a conversation like I'm on acid, and I don't know what's going on. I've
Agent Morsi,
lost
he's beginning to snap out of the DMT induced trip. How do we
Fine, we all are.
Let me back in.
Yeah, no.
We're all about to break protocol right now.
Oh, if you want to dive back in, check out Admiral Richard Byrd's Lost Diary.
Oh God, what is that? Give us some context.
United States post World War II does some exploration of Antarctica, and supposedly this diary is written by one of the men who was running the expedition, Admiral Richard Byrd, I believe, and he writes things in a diary that he takes with him to his grave, and then they reveal the diary, blah blah blah. But essentially, as they're passing over the western Antarctic ice sheet, they find that the volcanic activity has caused areas of it to be much warmer and almost acceptable climate. And then something tractor beams in their airplane, and a dude with a Nordic accent who claims to be from, I believe, like the time of the Bible, appears via elevator and then brings them underground into the tunnels.
Oh, I have heard this on Ancient Aliens. So, there's like apparently a species of alien that's like blonde-haired, blue-eyes people.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, so Hitler is now the good guy? Just kidding.
No, I don't think so.
I'm kidding.
I think the Jewish people will forever be God's chosen race.
You know, Jewish people are fucking very cool. I went to a Jewish wedding recently, or at least there was a rabbi there who, did the job of the priest, and they're so cool. Honestly, they're so cool and smart. At least this rabbi was. I was like, you are fucking awesome. I wish I grew up in a religion like this, where like you're so progressive and fucking.
Hey man, no hell is a pretty fucking sweet deal in terms of religion. Like
It's
just
a hell,
heaven.
I think, right?
No,
Because they believe in
No,
like
not the
Dybbuk and
Jewish.
shit.
In the Jewish faith, if you are not right with God, you simply do not ascend to heaven.
Yeah, but there's no hell. It's not like damnation.
Where do their
hellfire.
demons come from then?
Satan.
Where
You
is
just
he?
don't. There's no.
Yeah, I
there's
was
no,
gonna
like-
say then we're
The concept of the afterlife being divided between heaven and hell is a Jesus thing.
Yeah.
He's the one who threatens you with eternal damnation if you do not love God, beg forgiveness, etc., etc. Before that, under Jewish tradition, it was if you did not live a righteous life, you did not go to heaven. But there was no other part to it.
Anything about having a big personality in there?
There's a lot of things about having a big personality in there.
The tribal blood god that is like the Old Testament, Jewish god. The suffering is here. Like
That's
this
what
is.
I understand from the Old
Yeah.
Testament. Yeah.
Coolest thing about all the Old Testament stuff, even in the Christian faith, is
Most people are on the same page. But continue.
is that God's name, the YWHA or whatever, the Yahweh thing, is a representation of some other thing, which is, I think it's called the Tetragrammatron or something like
you
that.
layer them, and it's like one of the most powerful symbols of God.
Yeah, and it starts getting real wacky. I guess it was a couple months ago I saw something that was like ancient Hebrew is basically coding for God or some shit like that. I forget what it was, but it was like really trying to go into some ancient mythos. Like if you wanted to be a spellbinder, you had to know ancient Hebrew and some crap like that. And I was just like, man, this is funny. I definitely when I was in college, I took a Jewish studies course or something, and when I mentioned the Tetragrammatron or Gammatron, I can't remember which it is, my fucking teacher gave me like a bug-eyed, whited out, she just saw a ghost kind of look, and I had no idea what I was talking about at the time, but I'll still remember the look on her face when I mentioned that deep of lore for Judaism.
Who told you of the prophecy?
It was something like that, and I was just like, "Bitch, I've been on the internet."
She's like, "What? What is that?"
What is this intranet? Is this the tunnel they all speak of?
It is a series of tubes, baby.
You know what's cool is when you find out that different sounds, in particular tones and stuff. Have you ever seen those videos where someone is out on a flat, surface, just a bunch of sand, and then has speakers play very loudly, different tones and octaves, and you see sand start parting into geometric patterns and stuff like that. Has anyone ever seen this?
I haven't watched desert ones, but I've watched the ones where they do it in a closed lab, where the speaker is directly underneath the sand, and they do the different wavelengths. Yeah,
exactly.
Now that stuff gets me going because
Stuff gets me going too because there's like a lot of like those mandalas that you would find in Eastern traditions and stuff like that, representing like something related to spirituality. They're like holy symbols and holy geometric patterns is what they would call them. Most of those like are just be formed by like certain tones and stuff, like, and people do the very classic Om noise in Buddhism or whatever it be. It forms like those that Om noise in the right tone and everything forms the those geometric patterns, those mandalas.
Yeah.
And it's really weird because it's like, how would they come to that if it wasn't for things like that, Like, it is really strange. And also, there's like, if you think about it, for a time, a long time in humans' existence, we didn't really like speak I'm trying to get the right way. We didn't speak like this. Why I'm having a stroke right now? What is happening? We didn't speak as technically as this. And like going back to what Dr. Spin said about, spells and things like that, it's like I'm basically casting spells to you guys right now. Not very well, because you can't understand what I'm saying or I'm not articulating very well.
I'm getting what you're throwing down. I'm getting you.
The thing is, I'm putting something out there with words that you are
it's
now
affecting,
understanding, and it's affecting you. Yeah, something's happening. I'm making you think one way or another, or maybe I'm not. But
I can tie that back into things that you guys would like, specifically Rob. I think I've told Rob this before, but the person who created Dilbert, Scott Adams,
he's fucking, I believe, 2014. Yeah.
So in 2014 or 2015, he claimed that Donald Trump was going to win the presidency because he was a master wizard.
Sounds like my dad. My dad called the Trump win like a month before Trump even announced it.
There's a lot of talk about Trump's cadence and everything and being hypnotizing.
Yes, sir.
The Dilbert guy also made a hilarious video where I'm pretty sure the only thing in it is him just staring right into camera and repeating the phrase, if Hillary Clinton wins, there'll never be another male president. And he says it like 8 times, and that's the whole video.
I love it.
The Dilbert guy is a comedy goldmine, I think.
Man, that 2016 election was chef's kiss. Like
it was like the ultimate tunnel.
Yeah.
The ultimate tunnel is staring into a Mendelbrot set. Mendelbrot set.
Alrighty.
I was gonna say,
everything else,
like,
boys?
do we have the ultimate? I think now we've named what the ultimate tunnel is. I don't know that there's anywhere else for us to really go.
Oh well, the best part about a tunnel is the diversions. It's about the pathways that you take off the beaten path. It's about.
I always follow the signs.
It's about the trucks that you bring in that you replace with trucks of the exact same color and the exact same weight, but with completely different cargo on the other side. So when they're picked up on satellite imagery,
Die Hard 3, baby.
One side and came
Die Hard 3, yeah.
Die Hard 3. I'm thinking of some Chinese tunnels in particular, but I forgot about Die Hard 3.
Yeah, they bring in like dump trucks full of like rock and shit, and then they blow into the bank vault and they like tunnel it. They put it in the trucks and like bring out gold bullion.
Yeah,
weighs
but
like the exact same amount.
Was it the exact same amount? I thought that part of what got them caught was that they were weighed down on their suspension, but that might be something else.
No, you're right. Yeah, you are right actually.
Yeah, I was pretty sure that was
out in
it.
traffic. Yeah.
Yep, because those.
Or you might be thinking Italian Job, because
that definitely happens in Italian Job.
Yeah,
too.
it does.
100%. And I couldn't remember what other movie might have had that, but it was definitely Italian Job, where it's the armored car. I don't know if that's what happens in Die Hard 3. I was just thinking about, heavy on the suspension, but you can do that there's some particularly long tunnels.
They did make a big deal in Die Hard 3 about how like all the trucks are weighed when they go in and out of the tunnel. I could be wrong.
Yeah. Don't they escape out some like 17-mile long sewer tunnel though in Die Hard 3 at some point?
Because they flood the tunnel.
Okay.
They're like drilling like a new Holland tunnel or whatever in New York, and the bad guys like flooded on their way out.
Gotcha.
So
I'm gonna watch Die Hard 3 again.
This was if anyone's like kind of like what happened in this episode. We were supposed to watch the movie Men, and then Rob didn't watch the movie Men, and so then this happened. So I just want to.
I'm not the only one who did not watch it. Okay, like just for the record.
I didn't watch it either. I wasn't supposed to. I'm just
weren't supposed to be.
Jacob didn't watch it either. And
no, I did.
All of
I did watch it.
Jacob said
you
he
watched
it
Men.
I did. I told you. Jake edit point, but yeah, I found a rip of it online.
Edit point.
And I was
edit point.
This is not an edit point. That's nothing bad.
Yeah, no,
I
I found
illegally
man,
pirated a movie right after it came out.
I'm a thief. I'm an Emmy-winning thief over here.
the parody disclaimer. They don't know who we are or what we're doing or any angle we're coming.
We're all named Chris
but yes,
Morrison.
I did.
Rob
watch,
just said, "I don't really care about this podcast, nor
Oh my
the
God.
people involved." Was like, "Fuck this! I'm just gonna fucking."
Long con.
Shit
I
on
actually
everything.
prevented Rob from watching it so that I could come on and shitpost
Yeah,
on
I'm
you
glad
guys
you're
about
here, Dr.
conspiracy theories.
I just want people to know, I'm blindsided. There was this whole thing where I was messaging in the Discord being like, "You see it yet, Rob?" He's like, "But avoid answering for hours, even though he was online."
At work, okay? I was at work.
Sure.
But you
like,
leave
fine
Moonlight
with
open,
other
so it
shit.
says that you're online
I know,
playing Moonlight.
I leave my... Well, it's because I put my
Anyway.
computer to sleep during the day. I don't always shut
So-
down.
This was our review of Men.
Yes.
It was really crazy.
There's a lot of tunnels in Men.
You could say that. All right. Do we have any plugs or anything?
follow the Instagram, follow the Twitter, check us out on YouTube where you can see our big dumb faces, and also some special stuff that we post there that doesn't end up on the audio only version.
Yeah, normal basic bitch shit. Just follow us. Tell your friends about us. Don't complain that we've opened your eyes too much to the truth. Okay, that we hate that.
Bro, I didn't even tell him about the basilisk.
Don't tell him about the basilisk.
Yeah, please don't.
I've been
hit
told
him
not
with the
to.
basilisk.
Nah, I can't. Not in good conscience.
Oh, you can
But
also check us out on the Bottle the Bitches podcast, because I think as of recording, or as of this episode being released, I think that their new season of shows should also be premiering, and I don't know what their release schedule is, but at this point I know that I've recorded an episode with them. Jake, I know you're gonna be doing one sometime in the next few days, so you can listen to us on that, and hopefully we'll have Adam and Rihanna back on the show at some point. Cool people.
If anyone's afraid of sex, go away.
Yeah,
I think-
because their show is about sex.
I think 34 wanted to have us all on his podcast at some point. I don't know if we've set that up yet, but I'm definitely not opposed to that happening. He has a cool show, and he's a cool dude. So check out his podcast as well, 34 Questions.
Yeah.
Check out your local night sky. Maybe find some cool constellations. Maybe pick out some of your own.
Boo.
Check out Seinfeld, 30 Rock.
30 Rock.
Create more light pollution.
We're selling Rob's Soul. Current bid is for $3 and some pocket lint.
We're
not
looking
sure if
up,
we're gonna
okay?
accept the $3, but
We're not closing
more
out on that
pocket
bid
lint.
yet.
Please send in
Check
more
out,
pocket lint.
SNL's last episode of their season finale just happened.
Oh, yeah, Pete Davidson's officially off of it, even though he's going to be back on next season.
So's
Probably.
Kate
You know,
McKinnon.
A.D. Bryant, she's great. See ya.
Yeah.
Kate-
And
Kate
Kyle
Mc-
Mooney is
Kate-
finally free.
Kate McKinnon, funny enough, did her goodbye was her stepping onto a UFO. So
Wow.
it kind of ties in, I guess.
So weird that she almost cried during that. Anyway,
Alice
good
didn't die.
night or whatever
He
the
just
fuck
went home.
time it. Who fucking cares?
Yeah, SNL sucks. All right.
Later,
Oh,
everyone.
We suck.
We're good.
Bye.
Live
Later,
long and
boys.
prosper.
Don't get lost in the tunnels.